Hi folks, welcome to the Weekend Podcast with myself and Hugo. We are, as is the Weekend Podcast tradition, talking about the Great Reset.
Yep.
You found a video.
Going back to the roots.
So you found a video that you wanted us to watch.
The video has been published about a week or two ago. I'm not sure. One of the final
Fairly
days
recently,
one of the final days of January. And so it talks about what the Great Reset is, and actually addresses the fact that many people call it a conspiracy, right? And it's being labeled a conspiracy theory,
Right.
or some reactions to it are being labeled conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to watch because they have all their slogans, and they obviously it's framed in a certain way and it's presented in a certain way. So it's very fun to watch, and so there's gonna be a reaction video.
Easy, let's do it.
All right.
The pandemic has radically changed the world as we know it, and the actions we take today as we work to recover will define our generation.
Now is the time to think what history would say about this crisis.
Yeah, I mean,
2020 has been...
what history is going to say about this crisis, right? So, right, we're thinking now how to kind of, what can we mine out of this? You know, how can we make this something
Make the
else?
best of it. Yeah.
Not how we can get out of this crisis as soon as possible, but how can we make the best out of it? You know, and then so it's. Just I don't know. It has weird connotations. This kind of phrase, right? So what the future is going to think about this crisis? I think it was Michael Malice on Twitter. You should follow, by the way, who said that in the future everyone's going to say that they've been against the lockdowns all this time.
Yeah.
Right. Because obviously,
it's
so bad that if. In the future, everyone's going to be seeing it as something like Nazis or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I honestly, right. So I can't stop thinking about it. It's genuine, like on a personal level, from like my family life. If we didn't do this work, I would have gone mad.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's going to be so transparent looking back that everyone's
such an obviously evil thing.
Yeah, everyone's going to be like, oh, I've been all against the Nazis all this time.
Yeah.
Sure,
I was never in their favor. Yeah.
And so she also implies that this is not a crisis that should be wasted, right?
Yeah.
She doesn't use that word, obviously, but
that's the sentiment.
You can't let it go to
yeah.
waste. Good crises go to waste, which is not a nice thing to hear. But yeah, let's go.
And challenging on a lot of levels, as economic, environmental, and societal frailties have been laid bare.
What does that mean, right? So
if we end society, it collapses.
but she says economic, environmental, and societal frailties have been laid bare. So what does that mean? I mean, it doesn't have to do anything with the pandemic, right?
Well, it means that we were all susceptible to having some scientists tell us, by the way, you're going to shut down absolutely everything and stay in your home. And we were all like, well, I guess so. That's a frailty. That's a tremendous weakness. If someone could just come along, point a finger and say, hey, by the way, there's a disease.
You're that's a very good argument for why she's right, but she doesn't mean it like that.
I know, but like she's not wrong.
She's not wrong, but she doesn't know it.
I agree. We need some kind of restraint on what we think science can tell us.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, let's go on.
It's also proved that when we need to, we can act rapidly and restructure our lives.
Wow. Just
recovery from the
our
pandemic
lives,
is
right?
an opportunity.
When we need to, we can just do exactly as we're told. That's great. I can't wait to carry on doing exactly as I'm told.
But restructure is a weird term to use, right? So normally if there's a crisis that you need to overcome or something that you need to prepare for, you would say something like adapt or change. You know, we can change our ways to kind of accommodate for this, or we can adapt. But like restructure, like this is very technical.
It's also very systemic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like the entire system. If I was going to restructure something, it would be a systematic view where I'm like, right, okay, I just don't want that section there. I want that somewhere else, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, we're not talking about like the heartbeat of human life here.
Yeah.
You know, where people just naturally and organically live their lives. You're talking about a managerial position.
Yeah, it's not something that you do organically. It's something that you pre-plan and then impose or something.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, so let's go on then.
We can see rays of hope in the form of a vaccine, but there is no vaccine for the planet. Nature needs a bailout.
Wow.
There's no vaccine for the planet. Nature needs a bailout.
So it's just like this person is very very
He's
far
the
removed
Director
from
General of the UN.
very far removed from a normal person, right?
Yeah.
And so like he probably is not aware that everyone else is in agreement that bailouts are a bad thing. It's just, okay, your nation needs a bailout. Like, I know
everyone's getting bailouts, so I guess we'll use that as the point of leverage.
Like, almost everyone sees it as rich people getting money after they've made some mistakes, right? So it's just they're getting bailed out because they made mistakes, and now everyone else is going to pay for it, right? Yeah. So this is how most people, I would say see bailouts. And so I know that that's not his point. His point is that, okay, if you don't give bailout to something, it's going to collapse, and so that extends to the planet, according to him, right? So that's his point, but that's not the implication of the word bailout that normal people would have.
And the great thing about it is exactly as you say, he's totally removed from the life of an average person, and so he doesn't even he doesn't understand the very framing of the word bailout is a negative thing, and for him he's treating it as if it's a positive, and it's like, look, that's not how it works.
Yeah, it's absolutely like not how most people see the bailouts, or the planet for that matter.
Well,
right? I mean, most people don't think that the planet is going to collapse within 10 years or something like that, right?
Unless they follow Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who do think that, but most people don't, because it doesn't seem reasonable, does it?
No.
Right, yeah, so let's just...
You don't want to go back to the status quo that you had before simply because it was the status quo that got us here.
With everything falling apart.
Okay. You don't want to go back to the status quo because that was the status quo that got us here, right? So are we still talking about the pandemic here? What's going on?
Well, I think he is right. We don't want to go back to the status quo where we're vulnerable to having scientists shut down all of society.
Yeah,
he's right. That got us here. We need to make sure we have robust constitutional protections against that, in my opinion.
And so. What is actually true, based on like what he says, is that the only status quo that needs to be changed is China's totalitarianism, and so the failings of the Chinese political system and of everything that went on that caused the pandemic to spread and become an issue. Yeah. Like, so that needs to be changed. Okay, that's the status quo that needs to be changed.
Sure, yeah, China needs to be changed.
But instead, what these people are advocating for, like, they support lockdowns and
they want the rest of the world changed.
And so instead of addressing that status quo that needs to be changed, which is China's model, the whole world is adopting China's model of the lockdowns and of everything that was reaction to COVID-19. So it's just, and not just that, just like the censorship, the silencing of political opponents, the like total control of the society, right? There was a white paper that China put out, I don't know when exactly, but they said, okay, look at us, where we've dealt with the pandemic very well in China, and we've done that through I'm quoting almost by word, but not exactly, by instituting total control over the society, like preventing control, like these kind of slogans.
Yeah. And before we go on as well, we did a premium podcast talking about this, because there was a letter signed by Majid Nawaz and a bunch of other prominent, sort of credentialed people saying, look, it looks like the idea of lockdown originated with the CCP. Is this a strategy we want to follow? We won't go over it now, obviously, but it's something you can find on lotus.com. But at
the same time, the white paper that I was talking about, that was put out by the Chinese government, or by the people around the Chinese government, to show the rest of the world, or promote to the rest of the world, the approach that China had taken to dealing with the pandemic. And so that's been the case, like everywhere, right? Almost everywhere lockdowns have been instituted, and what China had done was adopted and practiced that as well. So,
almost everywhere except like Sweden. And it was clear that no one else has any idea at all. I mean, we're still in a lockdown now.
Yeah.
It's evil.
And by the way, when that guy is just speaking, and like the TV and everything, and his tone and the music, like that very much has the kind of visuals and everything, like communist propaganda. Like, that's something that you would, like slogans and everything, and just everything that's going on. It's something that you would expect from like Telesur or something. The Telesur is the state Cuban propaganda of Venezuela. I can't remember, but one of the two.
But you're exactly right. It's the kind of thing that you would expect.
Yeah.
But sorry.
We can reshape the world in ways we couldn't before. Ways that better address so many of the challenges we face. And that's why so many are calling for a great reset. A great reset? That sounds more like buzzword bingo masking some nefarious plan for world domination. Hands up, this kind of slogan hasn't gone down well. But all we really want to say is that we all have an opportunity to build a better world.
All we really want to say.
Like, Oh my God. Just there is so much there. Like, it sounds like a conspiracy. Well, I mean, where did this come from? Like, who's funding this?
It sounds like a conspiracy. By the way, look at this visual.
Yeah. Oh, but it's just like, I mean, we can see that you are doing these things.
And this is the visual that is supposed to invoke it not being a conspiracy. Right?
Like, hello, we're a tiny group of elites, of international elites, who have decided we need to change the entire world. This isn't a conspiracy. It's like...
So all we want to say is that we have the opportunity to build a better world. Right?
Yes.
So yeah, that's it.
But then we've always had that opportunity, and we have taken advantage of it every single day of our lives. Yeah. So what's new here?
No, but like if it's only just noting the opportunity and kind of doing the public outreach to let people know that there is this opportunity. So why do people then think that there is like a plan? Like, what makes them think that it's not just letting people know that you should be aware of something, but actually something concrete steps that are supposed to be taken, right? Mm-hmm. And so if that is a plan for a better world, then why do so many people regard it as evil, right? So it's just if it's just about creating a better world and the opportunity to do it, like why do people see it as evil? You know?
Yeah. How did you mess up your messaging so badly that you look like some sort of Dr. Evil conspiracy? Like, how did that happen? Right? Because it's like most people are like, hey, we've got an idea to make a better world. Don't get treated as if they're a supervillain. Yeah. And so, what did you guys do wrong? But yeah, let's carry on.
And it's not surprising that people who've been disenfranchised by a broken system and pushed even further by the pandemic will suspect global leaders of conspiracy. But the world's not...
So
I agree.
It's not surprising that they would do this. I mean, but this is admitting that these people who made the video are the status quo, right?
Yes.
So it's not surprising that these people think we are the conspiracy.
Because we're conspiring.
And just like 30 seconds earlier, they were saying that the status quo needs to change. Well, you are the status quo. You need to be changed.
I can't get world leaders on this show. How is it you can get them on your forums when you do them?
Yeah. So I mean, if they are the status quo, if they are the people who are the problem according to their own standards, then according to their own standards, they should be the ones overthrown. Right?
I completely agree with everything they're saying. The world was vulnerable to the problems that we're seeing coming from the scientists, and the scientists are kind of the problem and need to be overthrown. Yeah. I actually believe the propaganda at this point.
No.
That's simple. Every one of us has differing priorities, values, and ideas. That's part of why solutions are so hard to come by. And why we all need to be involved in the decision making, because
I totally agree. Though, on the face of it, that is absolutely true. That's right. Cancel culture is evil.
No, but this is such a disgusting way to frame it by them, because it implies you don't choose to get involved. You are implicated. Yeah. And that's why I think democracy is so evil, because it's
democracy is evil.
Yeah, because you don't get to choose whether you get involved or not. You just the decisions that are taken are being imposed upon you, and if you don't want to take part, you're forced to. It's the opposite of freedom.
And unfortunately, that is the case.
Yeah, but, so that's what they're doing on like a global scale, right?
Sure.
They would like what they want is to kind of start a discussion about where everyone gets involved and everyone gets to decide what they want and what their ideas and what their goals are. And if they come together, they can decide, and there can be a single decision for everyone, and that's going to be legitimate because it was decided democratically on the world sphere. Yeah. It's just awful.
Well, so I agree with you that it is, at best, what you're going to come out with is a very weak statement, a very weak thing that you can do that satisfies everyone. And it's really hard to think of what that could actually be that would be of any use. Yeah. What could everyone actually agree to that was actually a constructive and productive thing? Things have to be sort of compartmentalized and localized, so you get groups of people who think, okay, we're going to build this thing because we want to. It doesn't require everyone to have a consensus. And but the second point, though, is the irony of, okay, well, everyone should have a voice. Okay, well, where are the Nazis? I don't want to be a Nazi advocate or anything, but if you're saying everyone, they are a part of everyone, why is it that you only get left-wing progressive voices, people like Greta Thunberg? Where's Piers loves Piers Corbyn. You know, the arch anti-lockdown, anti-climate change campaigner. Where's he?
Well, the Nazis bottom left. Yeah.
Well, yeah, okay. Apart from the fact that the Nazis are actually being well represented there, but like there are so many different like ideological standpoints that these people actively work against and try to deplatform. For them to come out and be like, oh well, actually, we need everyone's involvement. It's like,
but what you said before about the kind of central solution and the single solution, like that's they say that people have different values, priorities, and ideas, and therefore that's why they should come together and come up with a single plan and single solution. Like that's the opposite of what you should do.
Absolutely,
like, you should come up with many of them and implement them in your own space at the same time, see what works best, and maybe you can convince other people that it works well.
Exactly. What you're talking about is an emergent system where if a good idea emerges, then it will just naturally, and it's exactly the same as like every human technology. So up until the dawn of time, like we can track the spread of agriculture, and agriculture spread because it was just a good idea. Other people, it was desirable to have a reliable food source.
But not just that,
didn't have to be forced on people.
But not just that. Most like today, throughout history, anytime, most ideas, most things that kind of have progressed in some way. This is the way that progress works in any way. Today, like most things work like this. It's only a limited portion of things that are politicized that don't work like this, and they're being framed in a way that you're supposed to have a central solution for everything.
Yeah, and it entirely indicative of the mindset that they're using.
Yeah.
I really despise it.
Whether it's politicians, CEOs, academics, activists, or you, we're all about getting people together. Even those you may not like.
Stop a second. So who have we got here? We've got Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, just rewind back so that we can see a bit.
Yeah.
Just a little. So that we can see those people. Yeah, just a little bit more.
Right,
just a little bit more.
Okay.
It's going to zoom out a little.
So that's about right. So we've got Vladimir Putin. We've got Greta Thunberg. I mean, what are they going to have a chat about? We've got Joe Biden with some, feminist activist with George Bush behind them. That's
I know who's the guy from
Bono.
behind.
That's the guy who did the climate change propaganda in the early 2000s. Al Gore.
Al Gore, right?
Yeah.
Al
Gore. He apparently in 2008 there was supposed to be no ice on the ice caps.
Yeah.
That didn't turn out to be true, did it?
So who's that? Who's the blonde
Is that
woman
Modi
on the right?
at the top there?
Who's the? That's Modi.
Yeah.
Who's that woman on the right? The blonde woman.
Ivanka Trump.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And then you've got Jacinda from New Zealand. Like, I don't know who this woman next to Putin is.
She's a UN person, I think.
What a shot.
I'm not sure. And then Rashida Tlaib as well.
Is that Rashida Tlaib? I don't
know.
No,
it's Ilhan Omar.
No, I don't think it is. Is
it not?
No, I don't think it is. But it's someone from that region of the world.
I definitely know the face, but as you can see with Ivanka Trump, I'm bad at this.
Yeah, but that's such an interesting mix of people who I would like to see sit down in a room and have a conversation. I mean, wouldn't you just die to be a fly on the wall of that?
And so if you look at that group of people, like it's either the people that they would regard as good, or those they would regard as respectable opposition, right?
Yeah,
something like that.
Vladimir Putin's respectable opposition. Trump isn't, right?
No, exactly. That's it, right? So there's Ivanka Trump, but there's like Trump is not there too much. There's Putin and Modi. Like those are opposition as well. Like Bush is fine, but. It's not the real opposition, right?
No.
It's not someone that would actually be problematic.
Where's Steve Bannon?
Problematic for them, right?
Yeah. Where's Steve Bannon? That's who you want there. Steve Bannon being on that stage with Klaus Schwab and Joe Biden. That's what you want.
And that's actually a really good segue to what they're going to say now, because what they say is next sentence.
Or you. We're all about getting people together, even those you may not like, to sit down at the table and develop solutions.
Okay.
See?
Okay, let's get the cancelled people. Let's see what Milo has to say about all of this.
Yeah.
Let's see what Gavin McInnes has to say about all this.
So even those who are cancelled, are any of them cancelled in the photo?
None of those were cancelled.
I don't think so.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, isn't it? You didn't have Trump up there, being the most cancelled now.
Yeah. It's Tiada or
yeah, exactly.
Or Gavin.
Yeah, exactly. I'm all for it. Actually, let's carry on.
That work for all of us.
Yeah, so just pause it. Then we're just the whole sentence is we're all about getting people together to develop solutions that work for all of us. Right?
Yeah.
And so that's exactly what I was talking about the other day when we were discussing the Great Reset in one of the earlier podcasts, that they think they are the voice of the people. They think they are being very kind of inclusive and consensual. They think they are not imposing anything upon anyone because they are working as a forum. It's a World Economic Forum. And so they are bringing people together. And if they bring enough people together, they will hear from every perspective and they will take into account and they will decide what's best for everyone.
Make calculations, exactly, with an algorithm,
And so because they are doing this kind of discussion format and kind of inclusive, quote unquote, kind of format, they think they are being very consensual and very, very good and very democratic, right? And so they're not imposing anything on anyone because the process was like this. And that's why they think what they're doing is good, because they're involving as many people as possible to just to say, okay, we're taking everyone into account, we're taking every possible view into our calculations.
But this just goes to highlight the fact that the one size does not fit all. I mean, like you were saying, how okay, let's say the World Economic Forum are like, right, okay, we really mean this, so we're going to get the two most cancelled people. We're going to get Lord Voldemort and Anjem Chowdhury, and we're going to sit them down and we're going to have a nice, progressive conversation, and we're going to agree on what we can agree on and move forward from there. I mean, what can they agree on? Like, I want a caliphate. I don't want a caliphate. Okay, well, are we going to have a little bit of a caliphate? I mean, like, what are the options here? It seems that there are two civilizations that are incompatible here, incommensurable.
And two in your examples, but there can be many in the real world because, the real world is messy like that.
Yeah.
So it's like...
This was just the most, chalk and cheese example I could think of.
It's just worth pointing out that it's not like there's two sides in this issue. There's 500 sides in this issue.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing. So this is, as far as I'm concerned, the sort of this is the sort of end phase of the Enlightenment. The idea that one rule can be created for humans and applied uniformly to the world. This is like the very most final expression of it, I think. And this is
the final expression of democracy.
Well, democracy is a part of the Enlightenment, and this is the thing. It is, I think, a part of this kind of intellectual trend that exploded in the 18th century, and I think has reached its peak in the 20th century. Showed where its limits were, and now it's, I think, on the way down. And I think this is a sign of the collapse. In fact, because what are they doing here? They're begging, they're clawing desperately for something that can't be grabbed.
You're just talking about what comes next.
Okay, yeah, but this can't be achieved.
We need enormous trust between the private sector and the public sector for this to actually work. That trust is hard to come by.
Okay, pause. So, enormous trust between the private and public sector, right? So, So the cornerstone of fascism.
I was saying trust
is that private companies are incorporated into this kind of general will of the state or something like that.
A giant parasitic state takes over society. And
so the fact that private companies are not independent anymore and just are enacting the will of the state is what makes fascism, is what makes it different than like communism, where industry is directed by the state, right? So this kind of partnership, like doing what the state wants and not being able to do anything else than what the state wants, is the cornerstone of fascism.
Absolutely. I mean, not only that, totalitarianism itself, as in every single person in all places in all times have to be within the rubric of the state. Also, I mean, like Hitler's got a quote where it's something like, why would we bother socializing property? We socialize people. And that's what they're proposing. An merger between the state and corporations.
And he's right. It's much easier than to do a socialist revolution and take over everything manually.
I completely agree. It's like we're worrying about the property. Why get their heads? We get their brains.
And that's why they're doing it like this and not nationalizing stuff, because this is easier.
I mean, it is. This
is the CEO of Mastercard,
kind of
world
by the way. Fascism.
This is the CEO of Mastercard.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, it's like a world fascism, and this is like the animating will as well. This is the thing. The fascists define themselves as having an ethical state, as in the state has an ethical agenda, a will that it is pursuing, and that was directly contrasted by Giovanni Gentili against the night watchman liberal state, which is what I personally support. As in, I want the state to be politically neutral. I don't want them to try and fix the world. But these guys have got a mission.
It's time for people to work together, listen to each other, and build this trust so we can move towards a better world. And we really need one. Because while the pandemic affects us all, it's clear it affects some more than others.
The first people who are hit are the people at the front, those who are vulnerable. It is those on the front line who take it first, and that is simply unacceptable.
See, at the start...
It's simply... Vulnerable people are affected most, and that's simply unacceptable. Like, they're most affected by definition. That's what makes them vulnerable. You know, it's just
that's how we identified them.
That's like saying it's unacceptable that almost half of the people make less than the median wage.
Yeah.
It's like that's the definition of it. The definition of being vulnerable is that it's going to affect you more than others. Like, okay, like that's it's unacceptable. So,
so fascism.
God.
Of 2020, 1% of the world's population owned 44% of the wealth.
Yeah, but that's you guys. That's you.
She goes on.
Since the start of the pandemic, billionaires have increased theirs by more than 25%, whilst 150 million people fell back into extreme poverty.
So I mean, okay, she's
that is them though.
She's talking about the 1% owning 44% of wealth, right?
Yeah.
Definition of wealth is murky. Let's not get into that.
It doesn't
but
matter. Let's go.
I mean, some inequality is good, some inequality is just, and some inequality is unjust, right? And so, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about the businesses that were forced to be closed and the people that were not allowed to make their own decisions about their own safety and priorities and trade-offs between different risks in life and different kind of rewards in life? Like that's clearly not just that's something that was imposed upon them. That's not something that was done through their own kind of merits or otherwise. And so at least the way I'm seeing it, like from what she's saying, that's a good enough reason to stop lockdowns immediately. That's not the point she's making.
Of course not. But if you're looking at like an international sort of world fascism, then we're kind of there, and the wealth is just transferred to the top 1%. The amount of money that these people have made at the expense of the regular business person is staggering, and it's them. It's like it's such a weird thing. It's like being sat on by a giant and then the giant going, God, if someone wasn't squishing you, you'd be all right, wouldn't you? It's like, yeah, well, I mean, you can get up anytime you like, you know, like Klaus Schwab, who does he get? He doesn't get donations from small businessmen, does he?
It's just the giant sitting on the small guy and saying, we need to change the status quo.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I mean, you're not wrong, but like, but seriously, who donates to the World Economic Forum? It's not like, I bet the average donation isn't like, £5 like it is for lotuseats.com,
I think it's mostly funded by international institutions, governments, but double check me on that. I'm not sure about that. So.
But it's going to have like, philanthropic donations from various billionaires and, and it'll all be tax write-offs for them. And it's like, this is obviously the nexus, the hub, the project of Davos is obviously the hub of the sort of...
This is Davos, like this literally what happens at Davos. Like
I know,
Davos is the World Economic Forum project.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, it's all... all of the rich and powerful people in the world get pointed to this nexus and the
say
nexus
how they're wrong.
is like and the nexus is like so we're oppressing you.
It sucks to be.
Maybe we can change it.
Is this laughing at everyone?
Oh, yeah, so weird.
With climate change set to dwarf the damage caused by the pandemic, the message from 2020 should be abundantly clear.
Capitalism, as we know it, is dead.
So just like the damage done by climate change will dwarf the pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't we start talking about the pandemic? Like, wasn't this about the pandemic? Right?
How is this capitalism's fault?
No, but it's like million definitions of capitalism and everything. It doesn't. That's not something to dwell on, I think, because anyone could read it in their own ways. But
I agree, but I just find it insufferable. It's like, look, we're going to force you to close your business. Oh, look, capitalism failed.
Yeah. Yeah, that too. Yeah,
I guess it does.
Yeah. And so, what is this about? Is this about the pandemic, or is this about climate change?
It's about all of them. All of those things.
I mean, but it's actually not surprising that they're doing it like this, that framing it in a way that so look at what the pandemic is doing to you. Well, climate change is going to be much worse, because that's kind of the direction that they've been going for decades. The World Economic Forum's agenda is the official word that they're using. It's not something like me being bad.
No. I know
it's what they've been kind of trying to implement, trying to push. It's like
it's
over
been
decades.
the general trajectory they've been on from day one.
That's the explicit goal of the World Economic Forum, to kind of address these things, and the stakeholder capitalism that they're going to talk about as well. And so none of this is new. And so the fact that this is being kind of emboldened during the pandemic is only because the pandemic is a good kind of selling point for this.
Yes.
And so they're saying, okay, this is related to pandemic, but it's not actually about it, because climate change is much worse and other things.
And this was happening anyway. The pandemic's just a catalyst for this.
Right. Yeah.
This obsession that we have had with maximizing profits for shareholders alone has led to incredible inequality and a planetary emergency.
But no one can do this alone, and top-down approaches won't get us anywhere, because everything we've learned in our work has shown us that diverse voices lead to better results. And
see, that's exactly what I was saying before, right? Diverse voices lead us to a better world. It's that if we get everyone together, and diverse can mean in the way like racially diverse and whatever they mean, but it can mean like people from different backgrounds. So let's get them all together, and they're going to talk it through, and they're going to come up with a good solution, right? So that's an awful idea, and that's exactly how their mindset works, right?
Yeah.
So if we can just get people to talk to each other under our roof in this kind of setting, everything's going to be fine.
I love the idea that they're going to get Mark Zuckerberg, Xi Jinping, and Erdogan to sit down and come up with a good idea.
With some like random teenage girls.
Yeah, with some random teenage girls and some people I can't tell. Is that Bolsonaro up in the corner?
Yeah,
okay,
fair enough. He's very well hidden.
Maybe something good could come of this.
Who's the woman in the middle with the dark hair?
I don't know.
I think she's an actor or something.
Possibly.
I don't know.
No, I don't know. But let's carry on.
Yep.
it's for these reasons that the forum talks about something called stakeholder capitalism, which would shift businesses away from just profit. Because
if we want to change where the focus of our recovery will go, then we need a new dashboard for the new economy. And
stakeholder capitalism is something that is one of the main projects, or one of the main points of the World Economic Forum. They're saying, okay, businesses should not just take about profits and shareholders, but they should care about stakeholders. They should be responsible to their stakeholders. Obviously, the way to go about it is to kind of legislatively prescribe your relationship with those stakeholders. And those stakeholders can be anyone from the kind of community around your factory, for example, to the entire world. For example, if you pollute the air, then
tribesmen in Papua New Guinea and things like that.
And so to some extent, it's a way of addressing externalities. So like not well enforced property rights in pollution and stuff. But at the same time, it's also a way for those who get to define who a stakeholder is and who isn't to kind of increase their own power and to be kind of at this intersection of telling people or companies or everyone, where you have this responsibility in your relationship with this group of people and that group of people, and so you can order everyone around if you're at that intersection, and that's what it's about.
It's interesting the level that this is pitched at, because this is not pitched at just normal people. They are talking directly to CEOs and international businessmen, hedge fund moguls, all of these sort of people. The people at the very top. That's who they're talking to. They're not talking to the plebs like us.
And so there's going to be a lot of companies and like multinationals and entities like that who are going to be very happy, really happy cooperating with this and bringing this about. At the same time, if there are companies that are not happy to do this works as a threat against them. So it works both ways. You have maybe the majority that will be more than happy, and then the rest of them will be intimidated into doing the same thing.
But if you're in a mega corporation, then what this is doing is essentially making sure that your competition isn't going to rise up against you.
Yes.
It's a form of sort of like codifying and formalizing kind of neo-feudalism.
Yep.
It's to encompass people, planet, prosperity, and institutions.
giving people a real stake in the economy and putting well-being before growth. And that's all about getting the right people in the right place at the right time.
We must rebuild our relationship with nature.
It just sounds like a conspiracy, doesn't it?
This sounds scary. No? Yeah. There's a story about from the communist world communist era, where you have, well, it's not exactly a story, but it's an idea, and the idea is that if communism doesn't work because you have bad people at the top, right? Mm-hmm. And you have bad people managing things that are centrally managed, and that's why things are not working out as well as they should be.
Yeah.
And that's not a real issue, because it's been shown like infinite number of times already over the past 100-something years that the problem with centrally planned economies is not that there are bad people. Even if all the people had the best intentions and were very capable, they couldn't do anything, because without prices, without exchange, you can't information can't be created that you need. Yeah, the society needs to coordinate the allocation of resources.
Yeah, the question is one of competence.
No, the question is not one.
It is. It's one. It's like the requirements to centrally plan a society are way beyond anything that we're capable of or will be capable of.
No, but that's the point. Even if everyone was as capable as possible and they were the best people on earth, they couldn't do it because if you have a centrally planned economy, you don't have prices, and prices are needed to coordinate the trade-offs between resources and the proper allocation of them.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason why centrally planned economies don't work. Yeah. Not that you have bad people on top.
Yeah, but that's what I mean about the question of competence, as in there is a barrier that is a requirement to such a thing that is beyond the capacity of what we are capable of doing. We'll never be competent enough to do the centrally planned economy effectively, so we shouldn't do it.
Yep.
The market is actually a much better allocator of resources and establisher of prices.
Yes, so there are like two problems, like in the theory of of centrally planned economies, like why they don't work, and one is the calculation problem, and the other one is I'm lacking on it right now, but yeah. So the calculation problem is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Is that you can't calculate trade-offs and different allocations of resources to different ends. And so when they're saying it's all about getting the right people in the right place at the right time, everything will be better.
There are no right people.
It's not about that, and it's very telling that this is the approach that they have to it.
For the survival of the peoples and our planet.
We have a window of time which is closing, and we need everybody who cares to get together and find solutions now.
Doesn't she study gorillas?
Jane
Goodall studies gorillas, right?
Like
I don't.
We have a window of time that is closing. We need everyone to get involved now. She's just lecturing, get away, creep. I don't want you here. Get away from my TV. your TV.
Yeah. Okay, let's go around.
It's the people who have great ideas and who share them with others. They're the ones who are shaping the future. So if you want to be a part of the change, then tune in, turn on, and get involved. Follow the dove.
Okay, so what if I don't want to be involved? Do I get to walk away? Do I get to do my own thing?
Yeah.
Or is it the case that whatever they decide is going to be imposed upon me?
Well, it looks that way.
That's a central issue in this, right?
It's the World Economic Forum. Yeah. I mean, I can see why Elon Musk is like, we're not going to have Earth laws on Mars. So yeah, well, it looks like we're going to need to get away from them, to be honest, mate.
But there's a central issue with this, right? So if they have these kind of ideas and this kind of process of like doing things that they like, fine, I mean, that's all good as long as you keep it to yourself.
Sure.
Like as long as you only involve the people that are excited about this and they are willing to contribute to it. Yep. Fine, whatever. That's good for you. But like, I don't have anything to do with this, and neither do a lot of other people.
And definitionally, it's not the World Economic Forum. It's not for the world, because that's again a bit all-encompassing.
It can be world-spanning. It can be a lot of different people from around the world.
Sure,
but it's not going to represent the whole population or anything like that. Like that's not the case at all.
Yeah.
Boss Agenda, right here, online,
just sounds evil.
On YouTube.
All right.
I guess we're going to have to email them and say, okay, well, we want to get involved. We want to hear what you have to say. We want a representative to come on.
That would be fun,
wouldn't it? We should probably, honestly, you should probably get in contact with them and see if they'll allow us to get involved.
And tune in, turn on, and get involved.
That's what they're asking for.